All right. So, hi everyone, and thank you for coming. So, today I'm going to talk about paradoxical ethics and why this research approach to morality reveals a novel difficulty for ethical alignment and more broadly to the alignment project itself. Now, this paper is part of my PhD research on moral complexity and machine ethics. I'm currently working on what I hope that is the final version of it before submitting it. And we'll cover around 50%, but it's the good stuff, like the good 50%. So let's begin with some overview. All right. So the starting point of this talk is ethical alignment and paradoxical ethics. But before talking about ethical alignment, let's just define alignment itself, which is roughly the endeavor to ensure AI systems do what we want safely. Now, ethical alignment is the idea that safely alignment would include always some ethical basis. This assumption is, of course, accepted in machine ethics, but also fairly accepted in value alignment, of course. On paradoxical ethics, I'll talk much more. So let's go to those two assumptions here. The first one is that ethical alignment requires grounding AI behavior in substantive moral reasoning. The other one is that according to paradoxical ethics, moral reality itself is riddled with puzzles, paradoxes, and perversities that we have barely begun to map, and I'll just repeat the end, we have barely begun to map it. And this is the problem, basically. So we have now the dilemma out of the problem that we have barely begun to map it. Should we allow ethical machines, that is, machines with ethical reasoning capabilities, to conduct research into the paradoxical dimension of morality, draw inferences from them, their discoveries, and incorporate those insights in their decision-making processes? And in this talk, I'm going to say basically that neither horns of this dilemma make ethical alignment reliably safe. So here's the agenda for today. I'll start with few preliminaries and the motivation, which is the framing argument of this talk. Then I will introduce paradoxical ethics and walk through two examples related to machine ethics. Next, I'll present the dilemma and the core argument, and after, if time permits, we are not sure about it yet, I will briefly talk about the human-in-the-loop response, which is around a third of the paper itself. All right, so out of preliminaries. So first of all, as I said earlier, ethical machines are a system with ethical reasoning capabilities. And I'm talking about artificial moral advisors. AGI also, of course, should do this thing. We had a discussion about artificial moral agents earlier here in this room. So what James Moore from 2006 called explicit moral agent as well should have this ability. And of course, super ethical AI. Their ethical reasoning exceed what humans can reliably track or replicate at scale without substantive effort and expertise. And the other assumptions related to that we pursue this kind of machines in real world, not merely for a pure intellectual achievement. This is especially when we are talking about AGI. Now, the meta-ethical ground here is the thinnest form of moral realism. It's basically, if you are contextualist, like many in the field of AI, as long as the context is being human on Earth, you are fine with that. All right. So, the motivation. If the core argument that I'm going to present is convincing, it puts unbearable pressure on the prospect of ethical alignment. And by unbearable pressure, I mean not merely hard, but that it's practically impossible or at least unlikely to be able to achieve this kind of thing. Now, if ethical alignment under such pressure, then ethical machines, including AGI, will not be ethically reliable. And if ethical machines are not ethically reliable and we rely on them, we are probably doomed. Now, the term probably and the term doomed is mostly provocative, but there is a big chance that we are developing very dangerous machines. They don't have to lead to catastrophic outcomes in order to be bad. And We'll see that later. Now, the burden of my work here in the rest of the talk is to show that the prospect of ethical alignment is under such unbearable pressure, and what the things that do that is paradoxical ethics. Now, before I'm going to explain on a nutshell what is paradoxical ethics and give you 3 examples, 2 related to machine ethics and 1 before that hopefully will make it more intuitive to you, I would like to say a few words on this field. So paradoxical ethics, or PE, as I will talk about the field itself, is associated above all with Shaul Smilansky, my PhD supervisor, and with his recent book, Paradoxical Ethics, which you can see its cover here. Now, the book offers the broadest unified exploration of moral puzzles, paradoxes, and perversities, and argued that they are not marginal to morality, but widespread, deep, and disturbing. Now, of course, for the philosophers here, there were already some well-known representations of the paradoxical in limited domains of morality, such as Nagel and Williams on moral luck, or, of course, Perfit on the repugnant conclusion and the non-identity problem. But this book offers a comprehensive, generalized framework for PE as a new research approach. It is based on dozens of PE papers and books by Smilansky and others over the past decades across moral theory, free will, punishment, and many other domains. So if you're interested, you can download it for free in Oxford University Press and from Shaul's website. Here I'm not going to defend it, but assume that those claims about PE is right. That is, that PE is not marginal to morality, but widespread, deep, and disturbing. All right, so let's talk about it on a nutshell. PE is a view that explores and neglected dimensions of moral complexity, asserting that morality, and I already told that, is pervaded by puzzling, perplexing, and sometimes disturbing features. The term paradoxical is not a strict logical contradiction, but refer to the phenomena of absurdity, radical surprise, and perversity, this what the F moment, that persists after deep reflection. This absurdity is not a product of human error, confusion, or lack of information. Rather, it reveals the inherent structure of moral reality itself. Now, I'll give you a very short and intuitive example that hopefully will make it more tangible to you, which is the moral duty not to conform negative stereotypes. So, if you belong to an oppressed group that suffers from harmful stereotype, you have an obligation not to reinforce it, because if you reinforce it, you hurt the other members of your group. Thus, if you commit the stereotypical wrongdoing, you are not only doing the original wrong, but you also help confirm the stereotype. That leads to an absurdity. The very same wrongdoing is morally worse, at least in some way, when committed by someone that is in the oppressed group than by someone from a privileged group, because you've got 2 wrongs versus 1 wrong. Now, these counterintuitive results follow from morally serious reasoning, and the result is, of course, absurd. Let's see now a couple of more examples. One is more positive, and the other one is more disturbing, related to machine ethics. But this is the kind of absurdity in morality that we tend to ignore. Now, here is another thing. From radical moral pluralism to normative moral pluralism for AI. NMP for AI is a normative framework for ethical machines which is based on PE, research in moral theory. The central PE contribution here is RMP, or radical moral pluralism, that explores the necessity of pluralism of moral verdicts in some dilemmas. That is, in many ethical dilemmas, different and even conflicting normative positions, such as deontology or consequentialism, are all morally acceptable within a single case. Yet, this is not due to epistemic uncertainty. And also, this is not moral relativism. In fact, RMP rejects moral relativism and excludes arbitrary, immoral, and ungrounded reasoning, as well as clearly indefensible verdicts, even when they are backed up by accepted moral theory, such as deontology in a case like trolley type case, but instead of 1 versus 5, let's put 1 versus 5 million. And in that case, deontology still tells us that we shouldn't kill the 1 and save the 5 million. Yeah, this is acceptable. this is quite an absurd demand. So those verdicts are also denied. Now, in Normative Moral Pluralism for AI, a framework for deliberation in complex moral context, I present a novel conceptual model for a deliberative ethical machine. It is designed to process complex moral situations by generating, filtering, and weighing normative arguments drawn from diverse ethical perspectives. The model accommodates disagreement in values and moral positions, the relative weight, cultural variations, but only within a bounded space of moral permissibility. Now, of course, there are plenty of things that, especially here in the Technion, I can tell you about the architecture and some other nice stuff there, but for our purpose here, the point is that PE research in moral theory on bounded moral permissibility contribute to the design of what I think is more innovative ethical machines than what we see in the machine ethics literature. All right. Now, the second example, which is much more disturbing. It is good that things goes bad. We normally assume that morality requires simplistic benevolence, meaning we should always hope for the best and try to minimize harm. But Smilansky introduced a deeply disturbing paradox. It is good that things goes bad, or GTGB. Imagine a terrible, hateful government is elected. Our basic instinct is to hope that the country and its people doesn't suffer. But GTGB argue that it is morally better if the economy crashes and things go manifestly worse. Why? Because successful economy would legitimize their toxic ideology. On the other hand, a rapid crash is often the only way they are discredited and replaced. Now, the radical idea here is that sometimes genuine moral concern require us to wish for harm, or even actively help things get worse. Now, in machine ethics, we use the default of harm minimization or simplistic benevolence. We do not yet have a principled and safe way to integrate GTGB reasons without risking reckless failure-seeking behavior. So this remains a serious challenge for those who work or contribute to ethical machines in machine ethics. Outside machine ethics, the picture is even more disturbing. Much of alignment work turns ethics into operational targets by flattening it into narrow proxies, such as stability, growth, or social order. This is precisely the simplistic benevolence discussed in GTGB. So this is actual problem that we do face, and no one's given F, of course. All right. So what have we learned from PE? The practical importance of PE for ethical machine lies not only in the specific insight it yields, but what it reveals on the nature of morality. The example discussed above belong mainly to moral theory, but if Smilansky is right, paradoxicality is not confined to such cases. It is likely to appear wherever ethical reasons operates, including law and punishment, health and medicine, public policy, infrastructure, and any current or future domain in which AI systems are expected to provide advice or make morally significant decisions. PE directs attention to paradoxes and tensions within morality that philosophers and, of course, laymen generally have often neglected, suppressed, or simply failed to explore for a variety of reasons that you can find in the concluding chapter of Smilansky's book. This matters because research into those neglected dimensions of morality does not create those difficulties, but reveals them, and thereby has practical implication for the development of ethical machines. And it is crucial to note that PE is very new and underdeveloped line of research, and our tendency to ignore what it reveals become especially significant when we consider creating ethical machines such as AGI. Finally, we get to the dilemma. All right. Yeah. Now that we have a rough picture of what PE is, we can turn to the central dilemma. Should ethical machines take PE seriously? That is, should we allow them to engage in PE research, to draw inferences from the discoveries, and to incorporate those insights into their decision-making processes? This dilemma presents us with two horns, and what I'm going to do now in the remaining 5 minutes that we have is to show you that each of them are deeply problematic. All right, so assume first that we build ethical machines that do not take PE seriously. If PE captures a significant dimension of morality, then such machines are not merely missing a few marginal cases, they are ignoring significant part of the ethical domain itself. While much of their guidance may still be morally adequate in ordinary cases, when deeper reflection is needed, especially in morally weighted decisions made at scale, they will proceed with an oversimplified notion of ethics. Now, while this horn of the dilemma does not lead us to an existential catastrophe, it is still deeply problematic. A PE-blind ethical machine may still be dangerous because it can cause serious injustice in a systematic way. After all, it operates with a flattened moral framework, and simplistic benevolence is just one example of such flattening. I will say something about the other problem here of downstream systems. The idea is that ethical machines train simpler systems with no ethical reasoning capabilities. I mean, they copy how they should behave in some domains that the ethical machine itself is doing the reasoning for it. I mean, I came to this idea when I wrote the paper from 25 on NMP4 AI, when I thought about how we can we solve real-time problems with ethical dilemmas. So what I said, let's go into architecture of teacher and student, and the teacher is doing the deep thinking. He teaches the student by approximation how it should act in specific cases, types of cases. All right, so hopefully that we told you something, if not. Let's move to the other. All right, so when we are talking about developing ethical systems that do take PE seriously, we are talking about four things. Ethical machines conduct PE research. They're drawing normative inferences from what they discover. They allow those inferences to figure out in their ethical reasoning frameworks, and when relevant, and only when relevant, they should take them into account in a practical decision making. Now, I would say that this splitting into four, I use it mainly on the human in the loop response, which we will not cover. Maybe in 1 minute, I will take from the questions and just go over it fast. So what will happen? Newly discovered PE insights may shape advice, action, or the training of downstream systems. Yet we cannot anticipate what those machines will uncover, what normative inferences they will draw, or how those discoveries will be incorporated in their ethical framework or decisions-making processes. Right? While some of PE discoveries, such as RMP, are not deeply problematic, we've got the toxic stuff of PE, such as GTGB and the simplistic benevolence, that can destabilize the moral framework to which it introduced. PE insights are not always ordinary moral reasons that can simply be wedded within an existing framework. They may reshape it, as we see in those couple of examples. Now, the existential risk here that PE also operates, of course, in population ethics and even more in any question on that concern future generations. And the discoveries that they can discover and the insights that they will take eventually could be catastrophic to us. I see that I already passed the time, but I'll give it 1 minute. All right, so I think the common response to this dilemma is to say that it's false dichotomy, and there is another option, which is to put human in the loop. somewhere. It's not to give them or not to give them the ability to research and implement it. So the core idea is that keeping humans in the loop meant to preserve human oversight over ethically risky discoveries and how they are implemented, how they are applied. Now, I think that it won't work for four reasons. Smilansky may add another one. He thinks that even philosophers will not take PE seriously. But I think that, they will. But on the other hand, industry, regulation, and deployment will, of course, reject it. And even if they are not rejecting it, they will take very, very thin form of it. So it will not be accepted. Because of all the reasons that he covers in his concluded chapter in the book. Now, even if they take it seriously, the machines, basically we have this kind of automation bias, which is the go-to answer to, the human in the loop response. So we've got the automation bias. Eventually we'll defer to them. And even if we do not defer to them and we're able to, overcome it, direct supervision, and it should be, the tree should be in real time. Real-time direct supervision may fail or will fail in any multifactorial and interconnected dilemma, which they've got like millions of questions in the same time, so they will not be able, in real time to say, yes, this is yes, no, it's good or not good, the decision that the AI is doing. And last, eventually in those big questions or big dilemmas or big changes that an AI can make in policy when it affects plenty of life on Earth, we will be able to track it only backwards in retrospective. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
Yeah, I have some background in safety of autonomous cars, and the way I see it is the only way you can automate ethics is by not automating ethics. So if you take the question of should I hit 3 people or 5 people and consider all the ethics for either option, the only way you can do it is by ignoring the question completely and letting essentially a random factor, the situation play out. I do not see how you can automate ethics, and I think you've done a very good job in explaining why you cannot automate ethics. I think every decision about the short-term bad is leading to long-term good. Should I undermine the Nazi regime versus should I not follow the government just to create havoc? Any decision a person makes is a decision, a human decision. It is not automated, it's its own value. So why are we even trying to create ethical machines as opposed to just safe machines?
The idea of ethical machines comes first of all from the concept of let's create an ethical advisors. Artificial moral advisors.
Okay.
So it begins with that, and you've got also this line of thinking about AI human enhancement and how we can develop tools that will help us to be more morally, more ethical. Yeah, it's a big question whether all the concept of ethical alignment that, there is a naive assumption that if we will be able to create an ethical machines, like real ethical machine, there will be some sort of super intelligent in the way that it will be perfect ethically. But this is exactly what you said, what I'm saying upon, researching philosophy itself. No, this assumption it won't work.
It's impossible. You can be an advisor, you can show the true value.
Again,
you decide.
Look, it's more complicated. I mean, when you're considering simple machines like autonomous vehicles, you are not talking about something that actually engage with all the fields or all the decisions that should be in, I mean, it's much more simpler to make it safe. I don't know if we will be able to create ethically safe, but I'm pretty sure that if we won't be able to create machines that can process things ethically and get into ethical results, we are doomed. Because
Sorry. You done with answering?
I'll just finish it with one sentence. The idea, and I think Borstrom is writing on it, and Yudkowsky from 2010, when they write about super intelligence, or was it 2014? I'm not so sure now. But one of their papers is actually explaining there. They explain why it should have ethical capabilities. I think it's 2010. And then I'm not sure if they coined the term super ethical AI or out of their work it was termed. Because they actually explain why we should create such machines. I don't remember the argument itself, I'm in my small PhD writing, and that's it.
I'll ask.
Yeah.
First of all, I understand that you don't take EE to form a reductio of morality.
No.
Of ethical thinking, because you're asking moral questions.
Yeah.
After all. Okay, so my question is, why do you take EE to affect machines more than it affects us? In our reasoning, okay, why is the problem more damaging or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, this is the right question. I think is why it is making much problem for AI than humans. Yeah. I think that in humans, first of all, we tend many people make small decisions and create everything, but one of the future horizons of artificial intelligence is it's also to be to govern our life, our societies, to help us plan things, to help us, achieve our goals, and it have huge power over humans, especially, and this is another part of this paper that I haven't talked here, it's about superintelligence. And when my idea, which is also quite naive, that if we create some ethical framework, maybe we can create superintelligence that, will still be safe to us. I don't know if it's possible, but because, superintelligence can just change itself and delete our ethical framework, but it's a huge question. Where will we be when you will have some entity that have 3,000 IQ? All right, and we know that if, in ways that we rely on the machine, we used to go by map or by memory. You rely on the machine because it do things better, and we'll see. Yeah, some countries are, have more AI and more advice on AI and development and the human flourish there and so on. So we'll go after that. At least there is some possibility, decent possibility that it will happen. And this is the difference, the scale that one machine can create, especially in downstream systems, when it's trying to train other systems how to behave, helpers, robots that will walk with us and talk to us. I don't know.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.